everybody. Welcome to Ask Me Anything number 3. I'm doing this one from my kitchen so that the Wi-Fi is better. You guys submitted a lot of good questions in the run-up to this. I'm actually like stressed out about how many good questions there are that I have to get through. But also, my favorite thing about doing these is like the live chat and the comments and everything that happens in there. This shit, look at this. Look at Joe Schmo saying howdy. I live for this. So we're not just going to be doing the questions that people already submitted. We're also going to be doing the questions I get in the chat. I love that. So if you didn't submit a question already, don't worry about it. Just type it in. Also, the last time I was doing this, like in the middle of it, my Wi-Fi switched to a bad Wi-Fi. And then look at me. Hi, Rhett Shull. Glad you like my kitchen. This is my Wi-Fi hot zone. I'm glad you approve. Yeah, okay. So if like the video gets bad like it did last time, don't be nice about it. Last time everybody was nice. And I didn't know that my video looked like shit. So get in the comment and be like, "Hey asshole. Hey asshole, the video's bad." And then I can use my kitchen things and get the Wi-Fi to be good. I've been looking forward to this at a sad level. I've been looking forward to it too. You don't have to be sad about it. I've been looking forward to it. All right, let's start doing questions. Look at this. All right, here's the first question I got. We're gonna put it on the screen. Hey assholes, looks good. Thank you. This is exactly the kind of culture and attitude I'm trying to foster. Thank you. All right. Question number 1. I have mostly heard you reference older or more classic artists in this series, especially when you talk about good songwriting. Who are some of your favorite songwriters of the last 20 years? Oh, and look, they messed up the person's name. The person's name who submitted that question was wrapped in gray. The subtext of this question is, Ivan, why are you disgusting and old? That's okay though. That's all right. You can do it. I can name songwriters from the last 20 years. You're not going to get me. I can do their names. Songwriters I like of the last 20 years. I like Angel Olsen. She's got this sort of like young female Roy Orbison energy that I kind of like. High Five is my favorite song of hers. I like the drums. I like St. Vincent. I like Ghost. I like Sarah Bareilles. I don't know if that's how you say her name. It's embarrassing if that's not how you say her name because she's so hugely famous. On like an indie local level, I like Miles Francis. You know who that is? You should look up Miles Francis. I was going to do a show with Miles Francis in Brooklyn in March 2020. That would have been so good. And then we had to cancel it because of Plague World. So those are some songwriters of the last 20 years that I like. Is that good enough for Wrapped in Gray? Is that cool? All right. What else do we want to do? Let's oh, here's another good one. Here's another question I have to do right away. This was important. Okay. Oh man, YouTube keeps splitting up my question. When I try to put like a big, huge question, YouTube puts it in 2 clumps. That's so annoying. I would enjoy an explanation of your dislike for the wah pedal and your thoughts on its essential place in particularly nasty tracks like Billy Jack by Curtis Mayfield or Sexy Motherfucker or Maggot Brain. What do you think about its use as an always-on throaty effect in playing like the dude from Khruangbin, Nicholas Mitchell? Oh man, look at this. Rhett Shull's coming in with serious questions. Look at this. Look at that. I really want to know more about your approach to getting the sounds out of pedals for you. How to be. Oh, okay. Thanks, Rhett. I'm glad you're interested in that. You got to wait your turn, though. I'm sorry. I already read the other dude's question, so I'm going to bang that one out and then do you. Right. Okay. Nicholas Mitchell makes a good point. At somewhere along the line, I must have talked shit about wah-wah pedals. You're right to rein me back in on that. You're right to do that. I'm sure I overstated the case. Do I have the balls to find fault with Curtis Mayfield's use of a wah-wah pedal? Of course I do not. Of course, whatever Curtis Mayfield did was right and good. And there's other wah-wah pedal stuff I like. You know, what I don't like is, and the thing you're talking about, like the always on effect where you cock, that's cool too. I don't know whatever band that was. Krong band. I don't even know how you say the name of that band, but it's a cool sound. Like the Kim Thale and Soundgarden, it sounds great when they do it. What I don't like is using the wah wah pedal as like as a substitute for having an idea. I don't like that. And I don't like it if you're just doing a sort of cliche classic rock thing. Like Jimi Hendrix sounded good with a wah wah pedal, but if you're just using a wah wah pedal like that, you have to be as good or better than Jimi Hendrix. So I would say maybe rethink. Yeah, I don't like it when a wah wah pedal is just there to sort of like make it sound like he's a field player. Like Kirk Hammett often uses a wah wah pedal where I just feel like, dude, you need to have like real ideas and real phrases here. You can't just step on a wah wah pedal and get them. He does sometimes also use a wah wah pedal in a way that I love. The guitar solo for The Thing That Should Not Be on Master of Puppets is like a wah solo that's awesome. That song is about like horrible, terrible sea monsters at the bottom of the ocean, and the solo with the wah is like, it sounds like weird eldritch sea foam. That's great. I love that. And I like the wah solo in Battery. That's cool. Kirk Hammett wah so it like adds to the sort of fury and the frenetic, horrible violence of it all. That stuff is cool. But then when he starts doing like double stops and like blues scale, and he's like thinks the wah wah pedal makes it sound soulful or whatever, that I don't think that works. Okay, all right, let's do Rhett Shull's question. I really want to know more about your approach to getting the sounds out of the pedals for your How to Be Advanced videos. Thanks, man. I mean, my approach. Well, you know, mostly I like to think of I try to just sort of like be hostile. Like just a second ago when I was like being hostile to Kirk Hammett. Metallica is one of my favorite bands of all time. That's the only reason I'm talking shit. Like I think Kirk Hammett is criticizable sometimes, but he's also created some of my favorite records ever made by anybody. And I think it's important, especially if you're like obsessed with music and passionate about it, and you listen to music all the time, and you look up to all these great players, and you just love how great all your favorite bands are. It's good to do that and to be in touch with that, but I think it's also important to then do like the opposite of that and keep this other voice in your mind that is just sort of like, if we had to, how would we kill them? Like if Jimi Hendrix, if we had to, if it's like the night of our life, we had like the opportunity of a lifetime, and we were on they brought Jimi Hendrix back to life, and it was like they take you back to your high school, and they're like, you're going to do one more fucking high school talent show, but it's going to be you against Jimi Hendrix, and if you win, you know, we'll give you $10 million. Right? That scenario, you got to be ready. You got to be ready. You got to know how you're going to kill Jimi Hendrix in that scenario. I fucking love Jimi Hendrix. He's my favorite musician of all time. He's the reason I play guitar. He's the greatest. And yet, if you spend all your time just only worshiping, what are you going to do when you have to make your record? What are you going to do in the nightmare high school talent show scenario I just described? You got to be ready to kill if you have to. So I don't know. How would I do it up against Jimi Hendrix? I don't know. Sometimes his strings went out of tune during his live shows. It never really bothered me. It's not the end of the world. Some of the Noel Redding songs were bad. When he let Noel Redding sing that one song on Bold as Life, that's by far the worst song on that album. You know, what's the point of any of this? The point is, like, I think it's important to like not become a hate-filled, hostile jerk all the time, but to also develop a sense for like, how are we gonna, this thing that we love, how, if we had to, how could we break it? And so that's how I get the pedal, and it's a cool pedal and I like it. And then I try to think, well, how do we ruin it? how do we like make it do something it doesn't want to do? Or how do we how do we somehow force it outside of the boundaries? I mean, one thing I used to love as a kid was when my video games would break. If I was just playing a video game, especially in like the Sega Genesis era, which was my childhood, if I was ever playing a game and then like, I accidentally knocked the cartridge and the game would freeze and then it would like show you crazy shit and there would always be like colors and weird things and it would be broken and different. I would always be like, whoa, look at that. What is that? I used to love that. So I'm trying to get pedals to do that, I guess. So I don't know how do I do it? It takes a while, you know. I don't have a new video every single day. Sometimes it can take me like 2 weeks to make one of these, which I worry about. Trying to be faster, I've gotten faster at making them since I started doing this, but it takes a while. That's part of it. The format I invented, how to be advanced, one of the drawbacks is that it's like difficult to make a video. That's part of it. Also, what else can I say about it? I mean, I try to just I try to get away from anything that I think is like a cliche or whatever, but sometimes if I get something that is a little bit of cliche, then I can just be like, well, how do I go in the opposite direction of this? Like if I turn up the drive knob and then it just ends up sounding like a tube screamer, like what if I turned it all the way down instead of up? Wait, what if I turned all the knobs down? What if I could use this overdrive pedal to make it sound quieter? Like how would that work? And then sometimes you get a sound that isn't very good if you're trying to sound like a really great, awesome record. It's like I get a lot of sounds that would be the wrong choice on like an AC/DC album, and I love AC/DC albums, but you shouldn't even be trying to make an AC/DC album. I mean, even these days when AC/DC makes an AC/DC album, does it sound as good as Highway to Hell? It's been a while since I heard that good an AC/DC album. So my point here is like sometimes you get this bad sound that is like nerfing your signal and makes you sound like Mickey Mouse, which is the wrong choice if you're trying to sound like the greatest, most like ferocious Godzilla guitar player ever. And yet, if you just listen to the weird bad sound you got and you like use your imagination a little bit, sometimes you can do something there that will sound unusual. And then if you can just, instead of just playing like the licks you always play, or instead of like playing the fast shit that you got good at, like put that aside and then just like close your eyes and try to listen to what it sounds like the Mickey Mouse tone should be doing. If you can do that, it might sound good. So that's, I guess, thanks for the question, Rhett Shull. Thank you. That's how I try to come at this. And it just takes a while. It just takes a while. And, I have to like concentrate really hard, and I have to sort of keep this like sort of store of hostility within me at all times, and then not let it corrupt me completely. You know what I mean? I'm like trying to not become pure evil. Cool. Wish me luck. All right. Thank you for the amazing question. Look at this. I like that you don't have vids for non-advanced pedals. If a pedal won't hack it, I'm glad you don't make a video. Thanks. To be honest, the more advanced pedals I get are actually a little bit harder. Like I'm right now finishing up a video on the C4 synth from Source Audio, which is extremely advanced. But it doesn't make my life easier, because if you just hook that pedal up and start playing it without doing anything, it already sounds like the kind of shit I make my other pedals do. The C4 synth, you just turn it on and it sounds like my usual. It comes with presets that sound glitchy and cool, but I can't use those because my video is called How to Be Advanced. So now I got to like somehow go even further into it. So in some ways, like the easiest pedals for me to work with are in this sort of like middle ground where like they give you a lot to work with, but like the Timeline by Strymon is like perfect for me because there's a lot there, but everybody just thinks of it as the delay pedal. So if you do anything with it that's not that, it's surprising, which is good for my angle. But there's so many knobs that it's not that hard. You know what I mean? So uh do you buy the pedals used, or do the company send them to you? I started out using pedals for my own collection, and I'll still do it now and then, but the company send it to me for free, and they pay me to make the videos too. I've talked about this in previous Ask Me Anythings, but I don't want anybody to think that I'm like trying to hide it. So I'm happy to answer the question again. Yeah, no. So I get paid to make the videos, and I get the pedals for free. If you have more questions about that, or you have issues with that, put them in the comments and we can talk about it. Look at this from Rhett Shull. That's super cool. Very different than the mindset I take, but I really love your sounds. Well, thanks, man. That means a lot to me. Thank you. You know, you very nicely said that you used some of my GFI presets on some record you were working on recently. I saw your Instagram stories about it. And the funny thing is that before you gave me that credit, I'd seen your Instagram stories on those sessions, and I thought your tone sounded cool and had no idea what you were doing. It did not occur to me that you were even using pedals I had. It definitely didn't occur to me that you were using sounds on pedals I had put in my video, which I think is cool. It sort of just goes to show that it all goes back to the player. You know, that you can make anything sound like anything. That me and Rhett Shull might have different mindsets, but I feel like we would agree. I'm just speaking for you now. I feel like we would agree that anything can be anything. You can make anything sound like anything. We could finish the Ask Me Anything now if you guys want to be real. That's the thing that matters. What? Oh, sorry. This was not what I meant to click on. Are the pedal companies ever surprised by some of the sounds you get? I think so. I hope so. I mean, I also send it to them before I post the video. Not, you know, the reason I do that, one, is because I'm trying to have a good relationship with these companies. But two, also, if I say wrong things in the video, I want a chance to correct it. Like Strymon once pointed out, I sent Strymon an earlier version of my Night Sky video, and one of the engineers said that like one of the ways I was talking about what the pedal did was inaccurate. I said something inaccurate. And like, boys and girls, if you name your YouTube series How to Be Advanced and you start saying shit that's inaccurate, they're going to kill you. That's the scariest shit that could ever happen. So I send it to them in advance to like make sure there aren't mistakes, and there are still mistakes. There's one of my diagrams in the Strymon timeline video. I say 6 milliseconds for some sound where I meant 60 milliseconds, and somebody left a comment where they pointed that out, and I seriously wanted to kill myself. I was so mad that I had a mistake in it. So mad. But I thanked that person, and I pinned the comment, and I loved that comment, and I addressed the error and under the reply to that comment, and that should always now be at the top comment if you look at that video. So and then also for the GFI synesthesia, how do you say it? How do you say that pedal? I was told by the keyboardist of Cyberattack, the keyboardist in my band, that I said that wrong the whole time in my video. I was saying synesthesia, and then Jeff, the keyboardist, said that's not how you say it. You say it synesthesia. Come on. I can't. How many syllables is that? Synesthesia? It's like a 25-minute video if you got to say that. I can't do that. Also, he said I missed a chord change in the Dr. Dre song I quoted. So as you can see, this stuff torments me. Torments me. What was the question? Yeah. So are the pedals companies surprised? I think they are. They usually write back and they're like, cool. Yeah, you found interesting stuff there. I mean, they better be surprised. I'm like, I work really fucking hard on these videos. I surprise myself sometimes. Do you ever feel like you are giving away gold when you make the videos? I do. There are a couple sounds I actually haven't put in videos because I'm too protective of them. And then sometimes I'll make like a little song for one of the pedal videos that I think is like cooler than my real songs, and I really start to ask myself hard questions. I'll like do a little cover of like in the Source Audio C4 synth video that I'm working on this week. I covered Toxic by Britney Spears, And I think it's like when I finished that cover, I was like, this is too good. This is like better than my stuff. And then I get mad because I work so hard on my own stuff. And the whole reason I'm doing these pedal videos is to build a following so that the second Cyberattack album is going to be a bigger deal than the first one when I put it out. And then I think like I work so hard on my songs and my lyrics and all that shit. And then I crank out these little jams for the pedal videos. What if the little jams are better? It freaks me out. And I don't really know what to do about that. I just refuse to give up. I just think, okay, that's fine. That's okay. We'll redo everything until it's as good as the pedal jams, or we'll put the pedal jams on the record, or I'll cover Toxic on the record, or whatever. I'll find a way to do it. But yeah, no, for the most part, I don't really not. I just feel like I said when I first addressed this question, I said that sometimes there will be things I don't give away in the video because I want to keep them for myself. I don't really do that. I've done that like maybe twice or something, but for the most part, I just put it in the video. And the reason is, one, I got to keep doing these videos. I got to crank them out. It can be work to get to 5 pro tips. If I get to 5 and then I don't want to give you one, now I got to come up with 6. I just give them away. And then also I kind of feel like, if you think you can take my pro tips and make a better album than I'm going to make, then go ahead. Go ahead. Because I'm not just doing these videos. I'm also working on the new songs and the new albums. And I'm trying to make that as cool as possible. And I'm going to use my own pro tips. So if you think you could beat me in my own game, go ahead. Go ahead. I already told you that I'm the guy who's going to be ready to kill Jimi Hendrix if I ever get the shot. So, go right ahead. You're welcome to try to beat me in my own game. Okay. Have you been writing new songs? Do you like to collaborate on your own material with the band or prefer to work alone? Your studio for the Hard Times album is a cool insight. RTG solo was rad. Man, thank you for this question. I love the questions from people who have like listened to my original music and watched the videos on my channel that like nobody watches. Thank you for knowing the fact that I took a solo with a random tone generator. I was so proud of myself for that. I put out the first Cyberattack record and there was a million things on it that were like pro tips and that I thought were advanced and I thought were like really pushing pedals and getting weird sounds. I used a random tone generator, took a solo with it. I thought it was going to be such a huge deal. I thought everyone was going to be like, that record, how did he do it? And then, it was like a unsigned self-released indie rock record. Like nobody really gave a shit about the pedals. You know what I mean? I had to start making these YouTube videos before anyone noticed. So thank you for noticing. Yes, I'm writing new songs constantly. Yes, I'm writing new songs. I'm putting together the follow-up album. I'm really trying to beat the first album, beat every album I've ever been a part of. So yes, thank you for being aware of that part of my life. The studio that we used to record it is a cool studio, Studio G in Brooklyn. You should look it up. It's a great place. And then, do I like to collaborate on my own material or prefer to work alone? Well, that's a good question. The musicians that I use for Cyberattack live and in the studio are hired guys. I love them, but they're paid for their time. So I do like to collaborate with them, but like if I called them once a week and rehearsed with them once a week and showed them every idea for every song I ever get, like that would be an expensive collaboration. So it's more like I try to come up with as cool stuff as I possibly can by myself. And then in the run up to the album, we'll get together and do some like pre-production rehearsals and I can hand it over to them and see what they come up with and get out of my head a little bit. And also, pay them for their time. But we can sort of do it all together with the producer in the run up to when we start recording. So, and I do like to collaborate. I think some of the weakest stuff on the first Cyberattack album is stuff where I wish I collaborated more. Like stuff where instead of using the drummer, I programmed the drums myself, or I played the bass myself and I'm like not as good as a real bass player. So there are times when I wish I'd gotten out of my head more. I wish I'd collaborated more. So that's my answer to that question. What is your least favorite effect? Well, if you'd asked me this like 30 minutes ago, I would have said wah-wah pedals because that's just a bunch of cliche bullshit. But then I had to walk that back. So I don't know. What's my least favorite effect? It might still be wah-wah pedals. Um, well, you know what I don't like? I don't like pedals. I don't like any effect where you sort of you just where it just sort of like can't. You know what? I'll just name names. You know those electro harmonics pedals where they like makes your guitar sound like all these different mellotrons, or it makes your guitar sound like all these different organs, you know, like the Mel 9 or the B9. I love electro harmonics effects. They've done a bunch of stuff that's great. The Big Muff alone is an all time great. I have a Big Muff. I love it. The Pog. I love the Pog. The Super Egos are cool. All the micro synth shit is cool. Electro harmonics is like, you know, will go down in history as among like top 2 greatest pedal companies of all time, maybe top 1. They're great. I just find though this specific line of pedals, I played them. It just sort of like makes your guitar sound like this other thing, and then you can't really do anything past that. You can't really make the pedal. You can't abuse the pedal. You can't really make it sound like a different thing. It just sounds like a mellotron or whatever. And I get why that could be a lifesaver if you need a mellotron sound in your band set and you can't get a fucking mellotron in there, or you don't have a keyboardist. Of course I understand why those pedals could be useful, but I just found them to be kind of a dead end creatively because you can't really find angles. Oh, sorry, that's another thing. I just try to find angles all the time, find an angle on anything. That's a good game to play. What's the angle? Sorry, I'm going back to the Rhett Shull question about what my process is. Like I like boxed for a little while. I was like never the champ, but I've like done some boxing and like belonged to gyms and done some of that. And the whole thing in the ring over there is like you have to find angles. You can't just sort of square off with the guy and punch the guy. That's not going to work. You know, you have to surprise the guy. You have to make him think that you're here, and then you're here, and you hit him from the side. You have to find angles all the time, and that's, I think, important artistically too. Like anytime you have an idea, you got to see if there's a better angle on the idea. What's the opposite of that idea? Okay, maybe is the opposite cooler or worse? Is the opposite obvious or not obvious? And I try to do that with pedals too. Like if this is the obvious thing to do with it, what's right next to the obvious thing to do with it? What are the angles? So those Mel 9 pedals, I feel like, dude, I couldn't find any angles. If anybody watching this is like, oh, really? Well, I'm going to make a video where I find the angles. That would be awesome. You should do that. You should try to kill me. I just got a Proco Rat. Have you ever tried one? Yeah. Those things are great. I hope you enjoy it. Have fun. Okay, let's look at this. I keep pedals that I'm intrigued by, even when they don't make it to my recordings. For example, I've had the Tensor for 3 years. How do I get that? How do I get out of the rut of hoarding all this shit? Yeah, I have stuff like this. I have some pedals I haven't used in a while, but I still feel like I might use them. I would say if you sort of know how you might use it, like if you have sounds in your mind that like that's the sound I'm going to use at some point, I just haven't had a project that needs it yet. That's a good reason to hold on to the pedal, I think. You know, if you're like, someday I'm going to use that sound, it's going to be awesome, but you know, whatever. Every time I try to use it, it clashes with my voice. So if I ever work with somebody who's got a different voice, maybe it'll fit. I think you're not crazy for holding on to a pedal if that's the idea. If you don't even really know what you would do with it, I would say that might be a reason to get rid of it. You know? Oh, look at this. Any good stories on awkward band tryout moments? I played with a drummer who broke down and cried because I played in 3/4. Not sure why that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Hope he's okay. Yeah, I hope he's okay too. That sounds sad. You played a song in 3/4 and you made a drummer cry. Eesh, God. That's heartbreaking to me. That's so heartbreaking. Yeah, I have some good awkward stories. For a while, not that long ago, before COVID, at the rehearsal studio where I would go, there would be flyers like, musicians looking for musicians. And I would respond to some of them just to see if like I could get a side gig, hired to play for whoever. And there was one band that I responded to that brought me into an audition, and they were like a little bit younger than me, but I didn't think they were that much younger than me. Like I thought they were like, 3 years younger than me, 4 years younger than me. I wasn't that freaked out about it. And so I was setting up, and then they were like, what kind of music do you like? I don't know who can answer that question anymore. You know what I mean? Like after like sixth grade, I don't know who has a fresh answer to that. What kind of music do you like? So what I said in that moment, I said something I'd never said before when someone asked me that. I thought it was kind of fresh. I said, well, my favorite radio station is CBS FM 101.1. Which I thought was like a sort of a cool way to summarize the different types of music I like. Because CBS FM will play like Van Halen, but they'll also play like Phil Spector music. They'll play like cool rock, and they'll also play like great pop and oldies and Stevie Wonder. I like any radio station where like Van Halen and Stevie Wonder coexist. Like that's the radio station I like. So CBS FM to me is not just a radio station. It like represents the sort of view of 20th century popular music that I'm like into. So that's what I said. My favorite radio station is CBS FM 101.1. And they looked at me like every single part of that sentence was meaningless to them. Like, first of all, terrestrial radio, like an FM station, like they didn't know what that was. They didn't know what like 101.1, like that was, they didn't understand that. And then like the fact that the radio station had a name, CBSFL, was meaningless to them. Like forget about the fact that they had no idea what kind of music that was. It was like if I said, well, I really like listening to music on my like picture tube Edison cartridges that I just got, like like Mr. Burns technology, like the way Mr. Burns talks, because he's like 100 fucking years old. So yeah, then the audition started. So yeah, there's my awkward story. Love the channel. Have you, or are you planning on making a blooper video? I don't have a blooper. I don't have one. If I had one, I could probably make a video about it. I'd like to make a video about it. And I like Chase Bliss, and I want to do more with Chase Bliss. I'll tell you this. I'll be doing more Chase Bliss stuff. Whether or not the next thing you get is a blooper video, I don't know. I will say this though. I do find it harder to work with pedals that are sort of like live interactive, or like pedals where it's not really like you create a setting and then you use that sound. Instead, pedals where you sort of play the pedal and then the pedal has its way with what you're doing, but it's a little bit different every time. And it's not that you're going back to these settings you recall. It's more like you just sort of wake up one day and the pedal wakes up that day and crazy shit happens. Those pedals are cool and I like using them, but it's harder for me and my format where I'm giving you settings and I'm giving you pro tips. It's harder to sort of find angles on those kinds of pedals. And so in my mood video, I only even talk about the left side of that pedal, because it's easier to give people settings and tell people this is the specific thing this pedal is going to do every time you turn it on if you set it like that. And in my microcosm video, I don't touch the looper at all. The looper's great and the looper sounds good, but you don't really need me to tell you how to make the looper in the microcosm sound cool. Just plug it in and it's going to sound cool. So for pedals like that, I sort of have to force them to be more sort of like into set and forget world. And like, this is the setting and this is the identity of this sound and it's going to stay that way. So blooper, I don't have one, but blooper might be a challenge for me for that reason. What's your opinion on bass players using heavy effects? Is that really the right choice? It could be great. It could sound good, but in order for it to sound good, the guitar player has to get out of the way. Is the guitar player going to do that? If your shit sounds good, then the guitar player should get out of the way. And maybe the bass player is right, and the guitar player has to take a smaller slice of the frequency space. But you can't both be doing it. So my opinion is That can be fine, but finish the job. Have a band meeting about it and make sure everybody knows their fucking role. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the pre-submitted questions. How would you? Here's a cool one. Here we go from I am Sam Santana. Well, first of all, good luck to you as a musician going through life with the last name Santana. I hope that works out for you. I like that you're just owning it right out of the gate. You're saying, I am Sam Santana. You know what I mean? It's like by the time you had to pick the username, you already knew what the problem was going to be. So I respect you for that. How would you approach making music with no pedals? That is how I approach making music. I try to start without pedals if I'm writing songs. I try to just have everything work just on like the level of like strumming a shitty chord progression and like singing badly. I'm not kidding. Like when I write a song, I try to write the song so that I could sing it and play it just playing a guitar unplugged. Like even before, I try to just make everything work on like the chord melody level. Like I'll give you an example. Like if I'm trying to write a song, I want to be able to just sing it and strum it and like know how the song goes. Na 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 whatever. I'll try to just have it be like little melodies, little chords, and see if I can write the whole song that way, and then make a little iPhone demo of me strumming and singing it in the kitchen, like what you just heard. You know, it probably doesn't sound good, and then send that to my producer and be like, yeah, does this piece of shit sound like it might actually not be a piece of shit? And then if the answer is it might not be a piece of shit, then it's like, well, let's bring in the pedals. And then I kind of then I try to it's almost like I'm covering someone else's song. Like I wrote the song as some like singer-songwriter jam, some like bad strummy like open mic night song. I wrote that, and now we got to cover that, but we can use anything we want. So, and then at that point, it's sort of not like unlike making one of the cover songs on my pedal videos, where I'm just like, well, I already know how the song goes. Let's just make a weird cover where we just all you need to cover any song is to like put the melody over the same chords, and then guess what? It doesn't need to be over the same chords. It just sort of has to be the same melody, and you covered the song. So I try to do that with my little acoustic jams, and then I just try to bring in whatever cool pedal I have that might fit the job. Do you have an exit strategy for the name Cyberattack if there's ever a really bad Cyberattack in the news? No plan at all. No plan. There's already other Cyberattack bands. If you like go to Spotify and look for me, you're gonna get some other Cyberattacks. But I don't think they're like way more famous than I am. Their Spotify numbers might be a little bit higher, but for sure my YouTube numbers are higher. So no plan. I hope there is no bad Cyberattacks. I hope this isn't a mistake for me. I hope. Wish me luck. All right. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a fun one from a pre-submitted question. What do you think makes good lyrics in a song? Submitted by Red Car Records. I could talk about this a lot. Let me know if I talk about this too much. Well, so there's like two things I like here. One is just the sort of thing that's my taste that I like, which is a certain kind of flirty, like tough but vulnerable quality. Like Thin Lizzy has that a lot. The band that did The Boys Are Back in Town, that guy, his songs have a very much a sort of like, he'll say things like, I used to be a dreamer. That's the first line of a song called Get Out of Here, which I love. I used to be a dreamer. And you can just tell like, you're still a dreamer, dude. I know you're pretending that you used to be a dreamer and then now you're sort of tough, but you're still a dreamer. There's that kind of thing that I like. And I think like Sheryl Crow does like a cool female version of it. Angel Olsen, who I talked about before, She does it in the song High Five, the like tough but vulnerable thing. I love that. Possibly the greatest tough but vulnerable song ever is Hurt So Good by John Mellencamp. I love that song so much. Sometimes love don't feel like it should. You make it hurt so good. I love shit like that. And I like stuff that is not like, I like stuff that has that kind of like emotional contradiction in it, like the pain, but also the romance of having the pain. I'm into stuff like that and variations of it. Like another one of my favorite lyrics ever is in the Guns N' Roses song "Out to Get Me," when Axl Rose says, "I'm fucking innocent." I love that line so much. I'm fucking innocent because it doesn't sound like you're totally innocent. You know what I mean? Like the way Axl Rose says, "I'm fucking innocent." Like, okay, that's not the most innocent sounding thing I've ever heard by any means. And yet it's like, it's just undeniable somehow. And I love how it's just like brute force contradiction in your face. But it's not a total contradiction. Like you sort of know what he means. Like you're getting a lot of information about the character, the narrator of that song. It just gives you a lot. So then putting aside like that very, very, very specific thing that I like, more generally, I just like any lyrics that are sort of giving you a lot with a little bit. I think "I'm fucking innocent" is a lyric that gives you a lot with just a little bit. Or like there's an Eminem line, I'm the Bruce Lee of loose leaf. I love lines like that. I'm the Bruce Lee of loose leaf. It gives you so much about Eminem and his notebooks and writing lyrics and writing lines and writing rhymes and finding rhymes. He's got all this loose leaf paper. He's the master of it. I like that. And also Bruce Lee as a reference. That's cool. The whole sort of martial arts hip hop thing is cool. I like that that's in there. And then also the multi-syllable rhyming. I mean, I like Eminem, and there's a couple of things about him that I like, but I think maybe his high card of all is the multi-syllable rhymes. Bruce Lee and loose leaf. That's like junior varsity level Eminem, multi-syllable rhyming. He can go so much further than that. Like in Brain Damage, when he does the multi-syllable rhymes, is like orange juice, door hinge loose, 4-inch screws, storage booth, that stuff. I love that. So those are the sorts of things I like. What I don't like is like anything that's like affecting having an important message, especially having like a highbrow literary message, or like, you know, trying to flatter the audience by like doing something that's like highbrow and smart. I hate stuff like that. Like American Pie, where like the whole song is a fucking allegory. And you were supposed to wonder, like, well, what are all the things? I hate allegories. It's so not interesting to me. Like, well, when he says the jester with the broken crown, that's got to be Bob Dylan, right? Like, I don't give a shit. Why didn't you just say Bob Dylan? What about that? Why don't you just say what you mean? Or when they went to the levee, but the levee was dry, and the levee is supposed to be the government or whatever. I don't give a shit. If you, why don't you just say the government? Well, I think the reason you can't do that is that if you just say that, it would be a dumb song. Well, guess what? It's still dumb. It's still dumb if you just say your dumb point and then you dress it up as an allegory. I hate stuff like that. So those are the kinds of lyrics that I like. Thank you for the question. I wonder if John Mellencamp had any other nicknames. Is Cougar his real middle name? I don't think so. I think Cougar was just his artist name or whatever. I don't know. And what's your biggest regret as an artist? Man, I'm glad that we finally getting the hardball questions. Biggest regret as an artist. I talked about that. I'm going to recycle an answer. I talked about this more in depth than a previous Ask Me Anything. I wish I'd started singing sooner and taken singing more seriously sooner and practiced singing sooner. I wish I'd taken that on sooner in life. And also more recently in life, I wish I spent more time practicing singing. Let's leave it at that for now. Okay. Not the singing one, please. Not the singing one, please. Calvin Dinverno. I'm giving you a lot, man. I'm saying, ask me anything. You're asking these like fucking scary questions about my biggest regret as an artist. I'm giving you an answer. And you're like, no, not that answer. Okay, I'm glad that you think that like you can say stuff like that and that that's the relationship we have. But I would also say to you, like, what's the problem? Like, that's the answer to the question. You know what I mean? You want to hear my second highest regret? I don't know. I don't know. Also, how about this? You know, don't ask a question that I already covered. You know, what's your biggest regret in the Cyberattack Ask Me Anything #3? What's your biggest regret? Could it possibly be asking a question I'd already addressed? How do you think analog synths sound in comparison to digital software synths? I don't have an opinion about that. I don't have an opinion about that. I also don't know. I don't know. You could be asking two different questions here. One is like analog synths. That's like a specific style of synth that sort of is like descended from Moog and has that kind of fat like Moog sound, even though there's other ones. And then digital synths is like a sort of a thing that happened in the 80s and is like associated with FM synthesis. And there's very specific sort of like cool Yamaha FM sounds that are associated with that. I don't know if you're saying like which kind of school of sounds do I prefer. If that's your question, I'd like them both. I like them both. If your question is instead, do I think there's an issue with the fact that like digital or software synths are like operating on ones and zeros or something? I don't have an issue with that. I took a recording class when I was in college, and the professor said this sentence: there is no voodoo on the analog wire. And I think you should live by that. If you're watching this, you should write that down. Here's a pro tip: there is no voodoo on the analog wire. Okay? Because the state of digital to analog conversion is so good that I don't think anyone is hearing the loss. The fact that the digital shit has to get converted. And then guess what? Like by the time it hits your ears, it's analog anyway. So I'm not worried about like the fact that it's fundamentally ones and zeros. Could it be true that analog equipment has certain tolerances and that like when analog equipment starts to clip, it'll sort of clip with a certain onset that'll be sort of nuanced as it enters overdrive, and that can be more rich. Yeah, that could be true. That could be true. But guess what? Just get like a fucking Strymon Deco and turn up this tape saturation and then run your digital synths into that. And it'll sound great. Problem solved. Okay. Then look at this. Everyone just look at Red Com's comments about everything I just said. Look at these comments. This is the guy to talk. He knows more about this shit than I do. Okay, cool. Let's go to another pre-submitted question. Here's an interesting one. How long does it take to make one of your super fun videos after filming is finished? Wesley James. Well, thank you for the compliment. After filming is finished is when the easy part starts. After filming is finished means it'll take me 2 days or something. Filming means me playing, which means I already found the sounds and I've decided what I'm going to do with them. And finding the sounds and deciding which little songs I'm going to make to illustrate the sounds, that's the hard part. You know, that could take a week. Once I've recorded it and I've gotten the takes that I like and I think I sound good and I've shredded a little bit, then I have to just do the editing. And I guess since my videos have a strong visual component, you might think that's the hard part, but it's actually not that hard. My friend films the action figures and send them to me with a green screen, and I just procrastinate by finding new little backgrounds for those action figures on my free time. Like if I can't fall asleep, I'll just start making weird little illustrations of my action figures doing their shit, and I don't even know what video it's going to go in. And then the next time I need to make a video, I just fly in stuff that I did when I was bored. And that stuff also doesn't stress me out. I just sort of I have my little video tricks that I do, and that's not the hard part. The hard part is like finding the sounds and recording, because that's creative, and that's also a performance. That's the thing, is like I do, um this shit lives on the internet forever, and it's me playing guitar, and I still want people to think I'm a good guitar player. I know I talk a lot about sort of trying to take a bigger view of the instrument and like trying to think outside the box and shit, and I stand by that. But if we're being real, I also still care deeply that anyone who ever sees me play anything on guitar thinks, oh, that's a good guitar player. I still care about that. So there'll be times when I like get stuck doing takes and I waste time, and I shouldn't, but I do. Hey, Ivan, I have an instrumental band, but I think I need to start singing so more people would listen to my music. I've been there. My voice is extremely deep and it doesn't sound good. How to find my singing voice? Unreal. Unreal to me that people are coming to me with singing questions. That is so great. I've never had bigger imposter syndrome in my whole life than this moment. Dude, I gotta tell you, man, I'm so glad, I'm flattered that you're asking me, but don't ask me. Don't ask, like, get a real singing teacher. I am so not qualified to help you with this. Having said that, I'm gonna try to help you with it. The first piece of advice is just find a real good singing teacher. Like, find a good singing teacher. It took me a while to find a good one. Then I finally did, and I wish I had done it sooner. And then so that work with someone who really knows. Like, don't ask me, and like don't find a better singing teacher on YouTube. Like, don't just start taking lessons from YouTube. Like, find a real teacher. That's number one. And then here's number two. Your voice is extremely deep and it doesn't sound good. Those are two separate things. Your voice being extremely deep, that could be great. That could sound fine. It could sound great. The reason it doesn't sound good now is probably because there's no room for it in the music you're making. If you're making really fucking cool instrumental music that's like heavy and dope, it might be hard to sing over that if your voice isn't high. And this is the part of the advice that you're not going to like. You might have to change what you think your band is. You might have to rewrite your parts. Took me a long time to accept this reality. Also, singing and playing is hard. Watch out, dude. Singing and playing is fucking hard. And you might have to make some sacrifices. Like, if you can't sing it and play it, one has to go. One of them has to go. And for most of my 20s, I decided to lose the voice. I'll be like, well, fuck that part. I now regret it. If you really want to make this work and you want your voice to sound good, you're going to like make allowances and changes to other things that are happening, including your own guitar parts or your own whatever instrument you play. I think the real, remember this now, because if you do work on this and you do find a good singing teacher, there's going to be 100 other things you got to work on, and it's going to be weird. It's like shit you don't want to have to deal with is going to be related to stuff you do want to deal with, like proper vowels is like how to sing in key. Like, if you're having trouble hitting pitch, you're going to have to like change your vowels. I hated that. I had to like I'm not kidding. I had to take like an accent reduction course in order to sing. I didn't really take an accent reduction course, but my teacher told me to get this handbook about like the International Phonetic Alphabet and more how like vowels work. Like, if you have to sing father, it's like easier to hit the note accurately if you say father. And I didn't want to say it like that. I'd be like, I'm not an asshole, so I'm not going to say father. I'm not going to do it. But if you just, it's like easier to sing it right if you do it. So you have to like learn that and then bring it back away from asshole town. It's hard. But you got to do it, man. You got to do it because you already said you thought you had to do it, and you thought that enough to ask me about it, and now it's on the internet and you can't go back on your word. So just do it and it's going to be okay. But the last thing I was going to say, all this was a run up to another point, was that I forgot what it was. It was something like oh yeah, right, okay. you're going to have to make like other sacrifices in order to make the vocal sound good. But if you really do that, like everyone will be glad you did and you won't regret it. If you really just sort of give yourself to this and you realize you have to change some of your guitar parts and you have to lose some of your arrangements, if you do it right, people will be like, oh yeah, sounds good. And you're going to feel good that you did it. Okay. All right. Good luck, man. I'm rooting for you. Okay. Let's go back to the pre-submitted questions. Oh, here's a fun one. Are you into jazz? From GeoBase 2013. What? It's interesting to me that 2013 is you pick that year for your username, because anytime I see a year in a username, I just assume that's the year you were born. So maybe you're like 8 years old, in which case, do your mommy and daddy know that you're watching this? Does your mommy and daddy know that you're watching a YouTube thing that has curse words in it? Or maybe you're not 8 years old and then you just decided that like 2013 was the year. That's funny to me. You were just like, no. I'm 37, but 2013, well, that was a hell of a year. I like thinking about that. Okay. Are you into jazz? Yeah, totally I am. Pat Metheny is one of my favorite musicians ever. I don't have the same level of detailed knowledge of all the jazz artists ever that I have for like the kind of rock music I like. I do like jazz very much, but the jazz music I like is like the most popular jazz music ever, right? I like Pat Metheny and Keith Jarrett and Herbie Hancock. I mean, they're not like esoteric jazz artists, but I do love them. And I will say this: in my sort of like high school years, when I was practicing guitar obsessively and taking guitar lessons obsessively and was like very, very self-consciously forming my whole personality around the fact that I play guitar, I was into rock and roll music. And my dad listened to jazz and I thought it was sort of cool, but it was a little bit like not my main thing. And then I came to appreciate it more in my 20s after I'd like started playing with other rock bands and I really, really had lived in rock world for a while. And I sort of think of jazz as like the thing that I started to be interested in and curious about as in my 20s, the way that I had been curious and interested about rock as a teenager. I feel like I had a sort of like second musical puberty kind of with jazz. And the stuff I liked about it was how much those guys are into improvisation and spontaneity. I really appreciate that, the way those guys really try to just play spontaneously and not just use licks. I mean, they have their licks. But Keith Jarrett walking out on stage and not knowing what he's going to play, I think that's really cool. And then harmonically also, I like that they just fuck with like all the chords they fuck with. Oh, look at this. Just got a Boss Harmonist and have been using your advanced tips. Have you discovered any more new tips for the Harmonist? Also, that video is gorgeous. Thank you. I don't really have new tips. I'm sorry. I've sort of discovered other tips that are in sort of the pitch shifting world that are some things the Boss Harmonist can't do. I'm about to put out a video about the C4 synth. I keep talking about it. And there's some pitch shifter games you can play with that are things that the Boss Harmonist can't do. And they're exciting to me for that reason, because the Harmonist is still my favorite, but it's sort of cool to see what else you can do. But that's probably not very helpful to you. I will say that I don't really talk about the detune, but the detune and the Harmonist is cool. And a lot of people really like the detune specifically of the Harmonist. So if you haven't messed with that, mess with that. Oh, look at this. This guy asked some real hardcore questions. AM Remorse wants to know, if you made a near perfect album, but very few people ever heard it, would that be fulfilling enough without the praise from your peers and fans? Well, since you're asking me, I'll tell you the truth. The answer is no. I need the praise. I crave the praise. I need the praise. Why do you think I do these Ask Me Anythings? It's so that you guys can ask me all these flattering questions. I need it. Is that healthy? I mean, probably not. Wouldn't it be cool if I didn't crave constant external validation. That's what my therapist says. And I agree. Like, yeah, maybe that would be cool, I guess. But like, how else are you supposed to stoke the sort of like constant motivation to be successful and make a cooler album and put more videos on your YouTube channel and write a new song and find a new band and meet new musicians? Like, all the ambition, all the tenacity, like all the day after day after day after day, you're going to wake up again and work harder again and try to do this again. That goes into being a successful musician. Like, how else are you going to fund that unless you have this insane appetite for external validation or praise? I don't know. So there's my answer for you. I would say if you have this sort of like terrible, excruciating desire for praise, well, see if that can get you to work. See if you can put it to work. All right. Oh, look at this, man. World's biggest cyber attack is now. Cool. You mean because I'm doing an Ask Me Anything? If that's what you mean, thank you. And yes, I love you and I agree. Look at this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. He needs more recognition for stuff. Thanks. Yeah, please do that. Also, please follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much for doing my dirty work for me. I appreciate that. Okay. And then, hey, I listen to my album when I walk my dog. Great. That's awesome. I hope your dog and you enjoy it. Thank you. Question. I'm very anxious. Is 22 too late to start producing? From Gregory Buttocks. I'm assuming this is a hostile question. I'm assuming that you're not actually 22 years old and that you're not actually wondering this and you're just asking the question to provoke me, which is okay. You guys can ask hostile questions just to provoke me. The answer is, of course not. It's not too late to start producing. Okay? Did I answer that question for you? If you're really worried about that, I mean, I don't know if I should even spend time on this because it's so hard for me to believe that you're actually 22 and you're actually wondering that. I've been uptight about whether I'm too old since I was like 16. I remember when I was 16, there was some Guitar World interviewed some like other 16-year-old prodigy kid who was like better than me. And like from that day forward, I've worried that it was too late, because Prince was like 20 when he did his first record, or maybe he was even younger. And Mike Tyson was 22 when he became the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I've been in a bad mood about this since way before I was 22. So the answer to your question is no, don't worry about it. Okay. Look at this. Hey, no, bro, I actually turned 22 yesterday. I'm not joking or trolling. Yeah, I still have no idea. That clarifies nothing. And I know you've been on these videos before because I remember you, Gregory Buttocks, and your name is Gregory Buttocks. What the fuck am I supposed to do with that? What, you could be anything. You know what I mean? All I know about you is that you're like chaotic neutral with the username Gregory Buttocks. Okay, if you're really 22 and you're not trolling me, then no, it's not too late. It's not too late, man. You've got all the time in the world. You've got all the time in the world. The only thing that's going to fuck it up is if you worry too much about being 22. You can worry about it a little bit. But let the worrying about it, don't sleep late. Like if your alarm clock goes off and you're like, maybe I should go back to sleep, then you should worry about the fact that maybe you're 22 and you're too old. And then you should not go back to sleep and get out of bed and start doing stuff. But then once you start doing stuff, then you don't need to worry about it anymore. Would you be opposed to me covering one of your songs? Dude, fuck no. That's amazing. Are you kidding? Thank you. Thank you, Tom Million Music. I would be so flattered. And it would be a cool cover. I love your covers. Everybody look up this guy's YouTube channel. He did a cover of Dreams by Fleetwood Mac I loved. Castles Made of Sand I loved. And then also Your Tomorrow Never Knows was a great cover. You like made a new bass line that was great. So I would love to see what you did with one of my songs. Thank you. Also, Tom Million Music, there was a question before about vocals. This is a guy who like knows how to put his voice in the frequency space. I've listened to your jams, man. This is a guy who knows like the frequency content of his own voice, and he knows where that should sit in the mix. So listen to his shit if you want to see a guy know how to do that. This is what I'm talking about. Lucas Pinto, you're the guy who just asked me that other question about having too low a voice. I'm actually 25 and I'm going sane because no one knows who I am. I think time is running out. Well, okay, all right. No one knows who you are is okay. Like most 25-year-olds in the world, no one knows who they are. You know what I mean? That's okay. Time's not running out. Don't worry about it. Just take care of yourself. I would say this, it might take a while. It might take a while before people know who you are. It could take like 10 years. So, try to take care of yourself so that you look good 10 years from now. Some people by the time that you're 25, some people look like shit by 35. Some people it's like, don't do that. Try to live I'm not saying like, you have to go to dare classes. I don't even know what you should do or not do. I don't know. I don't know the secret to eternal youth, but just understand that it might be a long game. It might be a long game. And so, if your teeth get knocked out, you might sort of wish you had your teeth like a little bit later. Okay. Like I'm not starting completely from scratch. I play drums, piano, and a bit of bass and guitar. I want to transition into producing and writing songs, but I'm too overwhelmed. Dude, everyone who is in production can sort of play those other instruments. It's good to be able to play those other instruments so that you can sort of think like how those instrumentalists think. So that's good. Yeah, production is hard. I don't know. The key is to just try to. I mean, production is hard because you're working for clients. So you could work really hard on something you love and the client doesn't like it. That happens to me kind of often. I mean, not every time. I've done stuff clients like, but I've also done stuff where I go full Cyberattack and people are like, well, it's not a Cyberattack album. So that part is hard, but I don't know, just work a lot, make a lot of songs. Like don't spend like 6 months on one track and then you think, well, if it's good and it comes out right, that one track will change your life. That's not how it works. You got to finish a lot of stuff, and then the song that changes your life isn't going to change your life because it becomes a Billboard hit. The song that changes your life is going to change your life because it then creates some other opportunity, someone else who's going to hear it, and then they're going to want to work with you. And that other opportunity is going to lead to opportunities. And all of a sudden you're going to be in the game. But it's not like if you get this one mix right, then a year from now, you're going to have 10 grand or 100 grand or $1 million because that one song is selling so much. It's important to do good work, and a good mix could change your life, but it's not going to change your life because you wrote the next Every Breath You Take or something. It's the thing that changes your life is going to just create new opportunities, and new doors are going to open, and then you have to walk through those doors. Look at this. My 6-month-old boy loves watching your videos with me. The colors are mesmerizing to him. This is all I have the confidence to say after my grilling earlier. I'm sorry I had to grill you, man. I'm sorry. What was the issue? Oh yeah, it was about because you asked me my biggest regret, and then you like didn't want me to repeat myself, and then I did, and then I lashed out. Thanks for coming back. I'm we're still cool. I still want to be BFFs with you. I'm glad your kid loves the colors. When I was a kid, I used to like playing with action figures, but I also used to like some Barbies because the Barbies had these colors that I was obsessed with. Like I remember there was one Barbie that had these blue pants, and I just wanted it because the blue of the blue pants was amazing. And I remember I have this memory of being a really little kid. So little kids can hear shit. Like everybody who's alive and is like, has been on the earth for like 18 years has like heard enough loud noises that your hearing gets a little damaged, and your ability to hear really high noises just goes down over time. But I remember being a kid, and so there's like all these high pitched noises that are happening all the time that like only little kids can really hear. Like I remember when I was a really little kid, I could hear the neighbors turn on their TV with the remote control because it like the remote control let out some sort of super high pitched sound, and I could hear it sometimes. And I remember being a kid and like hearing these fucking faint, really high pitched, crazy noises, and like looking at my blue pants Barbie and just tripping on that. It was like taking acid without taking acid. And it's a mindset I try to kind of give that effect to whoever watches my video. So I'm glad that your kid gets it. Okay. Has anyone copied your video styling? I don't know. It could happen. It could happen. I hope I don't get ripped off. But my video style, it kind of takes a lot of work. It takes a long time to glitch and fuck up all my footage. So if anybody thinks they can do a better job, you're welcome to try. You're welcome to try. All right. What else? What are some other questions here? Have you reached out to JHS? I want to see you on that channel because I feel like those guys aren't ready for your tactics. Thanks. I haven't reached out directly yet. I have some ideas about how to do it. I do want to do it. I think it could happen. I don't think it's too crazy. I have some ideas about how to get there. Yeah, and I have some ideas about what I want to do and how I want to sort of make JHS pedals the kinds of advanced pro tips I could maybe do. Obviously that guy's knowledge of the pedal industry is insane. And the visual style of the JHS show is so good. They like just the colors and the design and the presentation and the fonts and all that. Those guys have dialed it in. So yeah, and obviously I know from YouTube analytics that a lot of people who watch my channel also watch their channel. But guess what? Their channel has like 100 times more subscribers than mine. So I would love to collaborate with them. Okay, yeah, sorry. Here's another AM remorse question I wanted to do. Do you ever get down on yourself for not pushing yourself harder? Yes. And if so, how do you stay focused and keep progressing when inertia seems to be winning the fight? I like getting questions like this because I totally get it. And I totally do struggle with that. And I am very hard on myself. And I do worry about inertia winning the fight and not working harder, not pushing myself harder. So anytime people ask me a question like this, I totally know what you're going through and I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, I do get down on myself. And, I at a certain point, I've tried to sort of take pride in a sort of like grim refusal not to give up, if nothing else. I mean, I'm in a good mood because like my YouTube channel is doing well, and like Rhett Shull shows up for my Ask Me Anythings. You know what I mean? It's like one thing to start your Ask Me Anything and see that there's like 8 people watching it. It's another thing to know that one of the 8 is like among the top 10 most successful guitar YouTubers in the world. So lately, I'm in a kind of a good mood, but I know what it's like to not be in a good mood. And I'm not 22. I'm not even 25. But I just refused to give up, and I just decided that I was sort of going to take pride, even if I wasn't as talented as other people or as successful as other people, or even if I felt sort of mad about not getting this or not being able to do that. I decided that I was just going to be this dude who sort of refused to surrender. And I decided to take pride in that and to take pride in like an ugly win. Like I decided that spiritually, I was going to be like one of those boxers who just like doesn't give a shit if they get hit. Like Arturo Gatti. If you know who Arturo Gatti is, he's like the most perfect example of the ugly win boxer. He'll just like trade shots with you and let you fuck up his face so bad. And then somehow, I don't know how to explain this part, he just doesn't give a shit. It's like he knows that if he hits you and you hit him, he's going to be more okay than you. And he'll win his fight. You should Google image search what Arturo Gatti looked like. He's dead now. Google image search what he looks like after he wins a fight. He does not look like a guy who won a fight. It's like he can't open his eyes. There's like blood all over his face, but he's smiling because he did win. And the other guy's even more fucked up. I just decided that's going to be my music career. I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to be more than okay with that. I'm going to be proud of that. I'm going to understand the like insane, horrific smile of Arturo Gatti. So I would say, see if you can cultivate that attitude. If you're sort of successful overnight and like, you start getting ASCAP checks and your videos go viral and all of a sudden it happens, then you don't need to be Arturo Gatti. Then you could be Sugar Ray Leonard or somebody who sort of looks good and is, beautiful. But, take pride in being like the Wolverine type superhero who's like been around for a long time and just refuses to give up. you know, when people say that you have to work really hard to make it in the music industry, it doesn't just mean that like it's hard or that like you have to practice a lot. You do have to practice a lot, and the number, there's a lot of people trying to make it, and it's very competitive. That's hard, but you also have to be like, I didn't understand what people meant when they said it to me when I was younger. It's hard in the sense that like you might just do work that feels like you are working hard, and you might meet challenges that feel like they are challenging, and you might even do a good job, and then it's not really going to matter, and then you're going to have to keep going, and that's the hard part. Like when I was 14 or whatever, I felt enormous pressure to be the best guitar player in my town, and I was really upset that there was like older guys who were better than me, and I was really upset that like Jimi Hendrix was better than me. And then I kept practicing, and I convinced some of the older guys in my town to start a band with me, and then we did, and I thought I had done it. I thought I had done it. And then, I made you make a record at that point where you sort of try to cram in all your different ideas about what a cool record is. And you to steal all these different things from all your favorite bands, and you sort of make this like masterpiece first record where you're like summarizing all your views of what good rock and roll should be. And you think it's awesome because it's like checks all the boxes. And then you play it for other people, and they're like, I don't know, man, it's sort of hard to listen to. It just sounds like a lot of boxes getting checked. You know what I mean? And this was after you practiced your heart out and you convinced a bunch of people who were better than you to join your band, and you made a record. Like, okay, that's okay. Those people might have a point. Maybe you weren't, maybe your songs really aren't that catchy. Maybe you're just sort of making a point with the music you're making. You're not really sort of writing stuff anyone can relate to. So then you like work a little bit harder, you start over, you try to listen to some new people, you try to make a different record it's gonna be better than your last record. That's gonna be hard, but you decide to top yourself. And then you could even succeed at that. You could even get a new band and like put together a better show and like figure out, okay, it's not enough to be in a good band. We also have to have a look. Our logo needs to make sense. Our band needs to have a font. We need to give people all this stuff presentationally so they can understand what kind of band we are. And it could take a while to do that. It could take a year. It could take more than a year to figure out what does your band look like, even while you're still trying to deal with the bigger problem, which is that your songs don't really sound good. Okay, then it's a lot of hard work just to do this. And then here's the real scary part. You could get that right. You could figure out all those things and make the record, and people could listen and be like, you did it. You did it. Those are cool songs. I like those songs. I like that record. I like your show. And like you could get a manager, and people could start opening doors for you, and you could start to have some big shows, and you could feel like you're close. And then you could still not get it. Because who knows, whatever. People liked it, but they didn't like it enough to sign you. Or the band you want to open for liked you, but they didn't like you enough to take you on tour. Or the people who listened to it liked it, but they didn't listen enough to tell their friends about it. And the Spotify numbers, never go from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands. It's just, for whatever reason, everybody likes it just fine, but it doesn't happen. Now what? Right at this point, you've already worked harder than you've ever worked. Can you work harder than that? Can you start over again from nothing? This is what people are talking about when they say it's hard to make it in the music industry. You have to be willing to sort of like go outside yourself with a maximum effort. And then if that is insufficient, you have to then go even farther than that. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And there's no shortcut around that. So I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying try to begin to develop a part of your personality that will somehow like help you take pride in the fact that you're not giving up, because it's going to be very tempting. I remember hearing an interview with Billy Corgan where he talked about the making of the first Smashing Pumpkins record, Gish. And the part of that he was really sort of not prepared for and didn't know would be so hard were the vocals, which is something I can relate to. And I think some people watching, it sounds like they can relate to. And he, the producer Butch Vig was really sort of saying, like, if you want to make a record that's like really gonna have a chance, you're gonna have to execute these vocals a little bit better than you seem to be able to. And so he would sing it once, and Butch Vig would be like, all these notes are out of tune. Can you beat that? And Billy Corgan would be like, well, I don't know if I can beat that. I've never even worked this hard in the first place. And he said it felt like somebody had said to him, hey, can you jump 8 feet? Can you jump 8 feet? And he's like, I've never tried to jump at all. I don't know if I can jump 8 feet. Well, they're like, well, you have to be able to do that to make it past this next part. And then he jumped really hard, and he could jump 8 feet. And he was like, wow, okay, I guess I can. I didn't know I could do that. The next thing that happens was they're like, okay, can you jump 9 feet? Can you jump 10 feet? And it feels like, well, you just said I only need to be able to jump 8 feet high, and I just found out that I couldn't. I didn't know I could. So why are you changing it? And that's how it goes. We don't care that you can jump 8 feet, even though we just said that. We don't care. Can you jump 9 feet? And he was like, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can jump 9 feet. That's what it's going to feel like. Now we know how it works for Billy Corgan. It went pretty well. But, don't count on it sort of like being easy and getting lucky and having it be fun and beautiful like a montage in a movie. Expect it to be like sort of grim and like winterish and cold. That my favorite Rocky movies are the ones where he has nothing. Rocky 1, he has nothing. That's a good Rocky movie. Rocky 2, he's got the money from Rocky 1. He's like kind of successful. I don't like that one as much. It's like a pretty bad movie. Rocky 3, they try to use it. It's like he has to get the eye of the tiger back. He's got too much money. He has to sort of like get back to the hunger he had when he was starting out. That's kind of how it works. That's like a medium good Rocky movie. Rocky 4, he's in Siberia. He has nothing again. It's not that he has so much that he has to like simulate having nothing to get the eye of the tiger. He's in Siberia. He literally has nothing. The training montage in Rocky 4 is good. And they don't even have the original Bill Conti soundtrack. Rocky 4 is a different composer. It's a completely different training theme. How could any training theme be as good as the original Rocky training theme? The 1 and 4 is different, but it's good. I like it too. Rocky 4 is a good Rocky movie because it's like not a fun, sexy training montage. It's like a sad, grim training montage. So that's you. A.M. Remorse. Watch the Rocky movies again. Would you ever consider collaborating with Corey Feldman? See, this is what I'm talking about when I say that I want to cultivate a strong chat culture. You know what I mean? It's like I want to pour my heart out and like try to help somebody, and then I want to get like a fucking bullshit question. So Corey, this is the actor, right? Who like is weird, and there's like those videos of him dancing on the Today Show, and he just seems like a psycho, and it's like very cringe. Would I be open to collaborating with him? I don't know. What's it like if you talk to that guy? If you talk to that guy, does it feel like you're talking to an insane person, or like can you talk to him? I'm sure the YouTube video would do well if we collaborated. Maybe. The answer is maybe. I love the boxing metaphors because it really feels sometimes the music is fucking me up in boxing. Yeah, man, I get it. If there is a boxing gym near you and actually want to go, I think you would enjoy it. I think it would help. I recommend it. I don't, sports and art are like not the exact same thing, but there are parallels, and I do love sports metaphors for art. Okay. Favorite condiment to go with fries. So ketchup, but I like to put Cholula, like hot sauce in ketchup. Like Cholula, like the Mexican spicy sauce or whatever. A little bit of that in ketchup is really good. Okay. All right. Here's another question I need to address from before. It was about the pedal board. I want to see if I can get the real question from the guy. Where was it? Oh yeah, here we go. This is another Joe Schmo question. When are you fix your dead gum board so I can see it? This is the question from Joe Schmo. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions about people who want to see my board. And at first I was touched by it because I thought it was that, you guys are such fans that you like give a shit where my tuner is. And I was I was flattered by that. I've come to understand that that's actually not where the question is coming from. Maybe it isn't Joe Schmo's case, but I realize that's not why I get the question so much. I understand now. The reason I get the question so much is because people want to know what I really think about pedals. And especially for those of you who know that I get paid to make these videos, you want to know what are the pedals that are on my board? What are the pedals that I really like? Because I don't really tell you which ones I like, and I don't really do should you buy it, and I don't do pros and cons. I just sort of show you crazy shit you can do with them. So if you want to see my pedal board, it's in order to find out what I really think, it must be frustrating to you that every time I get this question, I say, well, I took my board apart during COVID and I haven't put it back together. And that's true. That's true. But I also don't want anybody to think that I'm like trying to hide my agenda or that I'm like trying to escape the hardball questions. I don't want anyone to think that. So I'm going to show you what my board was before I took it apart. I'm going to show it to you right now. Here it is. We're going to talk about it. That's the board. Sorry. Before I walk you through it, there's a couple things I got to know. I don't think this is going to tell you if you want to know, like, oh, there's some pedals he likes and some pedals he doesn't like, but he still makes videos about them. This pedal board was like from before my YouTube channel even took off. This was from before How to Be Advanced. This was when I was just playing Cyberattack shows, and everything on my board was so that I could play specific sounds that were required for the Cyberattack set list of like 2019. So that's what you're looking at. And the next time I put a board together to perform Cyberattack, it's not going to be this. But I also feel like even then, it's not really going to tell you which pedals I like. I like all the pedals I talk about. You heard the sounds I get from them. You heard what I could do with those effects. They sound fucking cool. All of those are effects I want to use. So what I think I am going to do that's really going to answer your question is like closer to when I finish the next Cyberattack album, I'll make a video where I show you which pro tips from all my videos are in which songs. Because like the whole album, it's going to be like a pro tips album. Like Cyberattack album number 2 is just going to be me using all these fucking pro tips. I mean, I've made like 20 videos at this point. Each one is 5 pro tips. That's 100 pro tips. You know, are all of them on the record? I don't think so, but a lot of them are. Anyway, just so that you can't say that I'm like fucking trying to hide from the question, I'm going to show you my pedal board, all right? Okay, this is the pedal board from like 2019. If you can see those metal strips along the bottom, those are true bypass loopers, those metal strips that have the lights and the buttons. Each one of my pedals is always on, but I'm not going through the pedal unless I turn on the switch that is along that lower strip. So everything is true bypass. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourself, well, hold on a second. If you have all true bypass and you have long cables, then there's a capacitance issue and you could lose some high end over the length of those cable runs. You're right. So I also have a switchable buffer. The switchable buffer is a sideways black thing with a green light under my expression pedal on the right-hand side of the board. That buffer, when I turn it on, offsets the capacitance issue and retains some of the high end of the signal. Sometimes it sounds cool not to have a buffer. And so that's why it's a switchable buffer. I can step on it and turn it off, and it'll just sound a little more mellow. I wanted the choice. You know, sometimes if I have to play a really fizzy amp or I have to use someone else's guitar or whatever, you know, sometimes it can actually be cool to have a little bit of high-end mellowing out. So the buffer is switchable. Okay. So what else is on here? Okay, so then I have a red Dynacomp compressor. That's my favorite compressor ever, the MXR Dynacomp. I love that. Above that red compressor is a EQD Earthquaker Devices Bit Commander. I love that. Bit Commander is like a great glitchy fuzzy distortion. That's like my what the fuck distortion. Then below the red compressor is a Boss noise suppressor. That noise suppressor is actually chained to the Bit Commander, because if you run the Bit Commander into a Marshall amp, it can be kind of noisy. So even though the noise suppressor and the Bit Commander are not next to each other, the cables are connecting. Okay, then I also have an Eddie Van Halen distortion pedal. That's the only piece of signature gear I've ever used. That's an incredible sounding distortion. I love it. And then I have a true bypass Polytune mini tuner there. Okay, then that weird green thing, that green square, is a special case that Make Sounds Loudly made for me. Make Sounds Loudly is the name of a company. That's this guy, Mark Leahy. He can sort of recase your stuff for you. I put 2 different Boss Harmonists in the same enclosure. That green box is 2 different Boss Harmonists in one box. I wanted 2 because it's very hard to change settings on that pedal, and I need more than one sound to get through a Cyberattack set. So if I have 2 in one box, I can set each one differently and then choose between the 2 and to switch settings. Even 2 is hard. There's more than 2 sounds I like, but I made a compromise. Then I've got the Strymon Mobius and the Strymon Timeline. Both of those are super crucial to me, both for doing the weird sorts of sounds I show you in my videos, but also because to use them straightforwardly as a delay and as a modulation effect, the fact that Strymon lets you assign the time by BPM. You can literally say like this song is 120 BPM and it'll set the tempo for you. That was crucial to me. And it was harder when I first got those pedals in like 2014 or whatever. It was hard. It was a little bit harder to find stuff that could do it. And even now that other people can do it, I still love Strymon, as we all know. Okay, then I have a Strymon Flint. That's my sort of go-to reverb sound. And then there's a tremolo there too. And then above the Strymon Flint, that little sideways white thing, that is a TC Spark Mini. That's just a clean boost at the end of my chain that I use for solos. Now, my amps also have effects loop in them. So everything to the right hand side of this pedal board is going in the front of the amp, and then I have more cables come back out to go through the pitch shifter, and all the Strymon stuff is in the effects loop. And then I also have a couple things that will change the order. If you look to the right of my red little compressor, there are those 2 sideways silver boxes. Those will change the order of things. The lower one will move the compressor from the beginning of my chain to the end of my chain, end of my front of amp chain. And then the second one will switch the order between the Timeline and the Mobius. I put these, I'm doing this at the end of the video because I figured it would I figured it would be like really boring for some people. So there's my pedal board. There's my pedal board. I hope that was satisfying to those of you who've been hounding me to talk about my pedal board for a long time. I hope we're cool now. That's not even what my board looks like anymore. I've done other stuff. I had the Eddie Van Halen distortion pedal put into another special case, again made by Mark Leahy, and I combined it with the Earthquaker Tentacle, which is a really cool octave effect. So I have the Tentacle and the Eddie Van Halen distortion in one box, and there's a switch on it where I can put the Tentacle before the distortion or after the distortion. Very different sounds. This pedal board was from before How to Be Advanced. This was entirely dictated by what a Cyberattack set in like late 2019 required. Oh man. Okay, everybody. I feel like that's a good stopping point. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thanks for your interest in all this. Thank you for asking me serious questions, especially the people who want to know stuff about like not giving up and how do I stay inspired and struggling with that. I totally get it. I'm on your side. I'm rooting for you. I'm looking forward to doing more of these. This is funny. I thought he'd have more poly tuners. That would be advanced. Multiple tuners. My friend was telling me I should do a How to Be Advanced tuner pedal episode, which I would love to do. It would be so cool if I could come up with like 5 advanced things to do with a tuner. I would love to do that. Anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for being a part of this. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. I'm at Cyberattack_world. If you want to share these videos, that really helps. Like if you just want to go on Facebook and say, hey, this guy makes cool videos, that would be amazing. I don't know if you're on message boards or whatever and you want to post them, getting traffic it definitely helps. And then also don't forget, I consider my real work to be the Cyberattack original music. If you want to look for that, it's on Spotify, it's on Bandcamp and everything else. I love doing these Ask Me Anythings. I will do another one next month. Feel free to submit more questions. And in the meantime, thank you for supporting the channel and everything. I really appreciate it.